are these people?
How are you, friends?
Hey, you.
Doing good. How are you guys doing?
I'm good. I brought this story just so that I could say that Reef cured cancer.
Oh, wow.
So,
Okay.
sea corals found to be a source of an elusive anti-cancer compound. So this is put up by the University of Utah. Those Mormons putting in work. Researchers find that sea corals are a source of sought-after anti-cancer compound. The ocean floor is riddled with mysteries, but scientists have just discovered one of its best-kept secrets. For the last 25 years, researchers have been looking for the source of a natural chemical that has shown promise in preliminary studies for treating cancer. Now, researchers at the University of Utah Health report that easy-to-find soft corals, flexible corals that resemble underwater plants, make the elusive compound. So this guy, Eric W. Schmidt, PhD. So after determining the source, the researchers went on to discover the animal's DNA code for synthesizing the chemical. They were able to carry out the initial stages of recreating the soft coral chemical in the laboratory by following those directions. This is the first time we've been able to do this with any drug lead on Earth, says Eric Schmidt, professor of medicinal chemistry at the University of Utah Health. He led the study with Paul Skessa, postdoctoral scientist and first author, and Jinjin Lin, assistant research professor. So the breakthrough opens the door to generating the compound in big enough quantities for rigorous testing, which could one day result in new cancer-fighting tool. So a second research group led by Bradley Moore, PhD from Scripps Institution of Oceanography and the University of California, San Diego, independently showed that corals make related molecules. Both studies were recently published in the journal Nature Chemical Biology. So soft corals contain thousands of drug-like compounds that may be used as anti-inflammatories, antibiotics, and other medicines. However, acquiring enough of these compounds has been a big obstacle to turning them into clinically useful medications. According to Schmidt, these other compounds should now be accessible using this new method. Right? So these are just some coral polyps. I just figured people should look at some pretty coral stuff.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah,
They're like little baby corals. Yes.
But they're making them in a lab.
In a lab. Okay.
Yeah.
What do you guys think? Immediately when you showed me this, I was like, oh, this is why they're killing all the coral reefs. That's
Probably just your real conspiratory brain went like that route.
Big Pharma is killing coral reefs.
The man is trying to keep us from curing cancer. But so corals aren't the only animals that harbor potential therapeutics. Nature is crawling with snakes, spiders, and other animals known to carry chemicals with healing properties. Yet that compounds from soft corals offer distinct advantages for drug development. Unlike venomous chemicals that are injected into prey, corals use their chemicals to ward off predators that try to eat them. Since they are made to be eaten, the soft coral chemicals are easily digestible. Similarly, drugs derived from these types of compounds should be able to be given as pills with a glass of water rather than taken by injection or other more invasive means. These compounds are harder to find, but they're easier to make in the lab and easier to take as medicine. And this article goes on to talk about like how exactly he found it, right? The chemical disrupts the cytoskeleton, a key scaffold in cells on soft corals, so they just kind of keep growing this weird limestoney cellular network. That essentially it's a what do they call those? It's two organisms technically, right? It's like the bacterial layer essentially and like the actual skeletal structure, right? And then it's like there's a whole ecosystem within that like feeds it and does all that stuff. They're really complicated things. My mother would be able to do a much better job of explaining that, but like I think the chemical is called eleuthorobin, I guess. But laboratory studies show that the compound was also a potent inhibitor of cancer cell growth. So essentially technically with any of those things, you're just trying to keep the bad cells from replicating. Right. So I know that's why weed does a pretty decent job at helping, and apparently this stuff also could as well. So scientists searched but could not find the fabled holy grail chemical in the quantities needed for drug development and couldn't remedy the problem without understanding how the chemical was made. Dogma had it that similar to other kinds of marine life, the chemical was synthesized by symbiotic organisms that lived inside the animals. Right. So that's what they thought. So that they thought it was like this bacterial layer that was like, you know, this ecosystem inside the coral. But now we realize that it might just be the coral itself, apparently. So, but yeah. Anyway,
Cool.
this guy Skessa, he's one of the other guys works on it. That's in the Keys. I'm betting. So, but talks about this other guy that helped do this, and brought live samples from Florida, Utah. So, you know, you got to actually get the stuff. Go ahead.
They're not going to let them develop it into anything that cures cancer.
No, I mean, I think yes and no. If anything, it'll probably be like an add-on to something that already exists, right? They'll put it onto aspirin and then give it. You know, it's gonna make someone money. So, like, and keep in mind,
I pre-smoke so much weed.
Yes. Yeah. But
because something might be coming up in the future, and if I'm smoking weed now, then it's it's pushing those back. So
yeah. So, but essentially, they found that they sequenced this, right? So they found out like how the corals are producing it, and then they found the DNA responsible for producing it. So, you know, I know people love doing gene sequencing, but
good thing they can do it in a lab because, you know, our oceans are dying. So
yes,
right,
yeah, you're gonna need
at a good time.
Right. Yeah, it's, you know, it's almost like climate change has been happening for a long time, and people have been telling about this. Science picture. I love like how articles have to do the same thing with every story. Like, anyway, so like, and they had to put the inspirational quote at the end. You know, but anyway, I just thought that would be fun to mess with a little bit.